Steve Reed, you've said that you're furious. Voters are absolutely furious about the state of water. Their bills are rocketing. You're talking about a water revolution, but is it really? I mean, when are people actually going to see any difference, any real difference?
Well, the water system is completely broken. We've got, as you were saying, we've got record levels of pollution in our rivers, lakes and seas, but we've also got record bill hikes. So customers feel like they're paying more and getting less. So what this government is doing is leading a complete overhaul of the entire water sector. And that is why I'm calling it a revolution. There are 3 building blocks to that change. The first is resetting the system, bringing in tougher criminal sentences for water bosses who are breaking the law over water pollution, banning the payment of unfair multi-million-pound bonuses to those individuals, but also rebuilding the system by bringing in the biggest amount of private sector investment in history to upgrade those broken pipes that are under our feet and under our rivers. £104 billion that allows me to say that over 5 years we can cut water pollution in half. Now that money is already being spent. It started to be spent in April this year, so change is already happening and people will start to see that as we move forward through the coming months and years. And by changing the rules that govern water companies, which is what today's announcements were about, that becomes the third building block for change, because it means that tougher regulations with a tough new regulator, a super regulator, bringing together 4 different regulators who existed in the past, they will be able to make sure that the water companies are investing properly in keeping the pipes in a good state of repair, so we never again have the level of disrepair that led to those massive bill rises that people were forced to pay last year.
Well, you're toughening up the regulator, but the fact is, you said yourself that these water companies have been profiting from British people. 70% of water is in foreign ownership. The shareholders don't care about sewage in our rivers, about leaking pipes. They have been taking us for a ride, haven't they? What's to say that they're not going to carry on doing that, because you haven't looked at nationalising at all?
Using the internet without a VPN, a virtual private network, is a bit like taking to the road without car insurance. All it takes is one unlucky moment to cost you a lot of cash. This video's sponsor is Private Internet Access. They are the VPN to help keep you safe. Click the link in the description below to find out why over 30 million people have downloaded PIA to protect themselves online. A virtual private network is an app that hides your IP address and helps keep your data private. When you're browsing the internet at home, you give up a large amount of data to businesses, to shops, and indeed to social media giants too. Hackers have the ability to steal your personal data with ease, including sensitive information such as passwords, keystrokes, and even your personal photos. Private Internet Access helps protect your personal data by encrypting your internet connection to keep your data out of the hands of cyber criminals. And it's not just hackers either to be concerned about. Information can be censored too. When Canada passed their C18 bill, social media giants decided to ban news content on their platforms. But PIA can protect your ability to consume the news and content you love. Private Internet Access is available for Windows users, Mac OS, Android, Linux, iOS, and you can use one PIA subscription to protect an unlimited amount of devices. And we've got a huge GB News discount for you too. Click the link in this video's description and you'll get a massive 83% off PIA. That's under £2 a month, the price of a coffee, and you'll get an extra 4 months completely free on top. Also, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee too. Visit piavpn.com/GB News to start protecting yourself digitally today.
Well, the problem is the previous government let the water companies get away with that. They weakened regulation. They said they wanted it to be light touch. That was a deliberate policy. Well, actually, we needed to get a tight grip on what was going on. And they stripped people out of the regulators, so there was no longer people around to carry out the enforcement work. So by tightening regulation and making sure that they've got the resources they need by making the polluter pay for those additional resources in the regulators, we can get tough on what the water companies are doing. But when it comes to nationalisation, the problem there would be it would cost 100 billion, with a B, pounds of public money to pay to buy out the existing owners. That would mean taking money out of the National Health Service, out of education, and handing it to the owners of the companies who have polluted our waterways in the first place. Secondly, it would take years to unpick the current model of ownership, endless legal wrangles, and during that time there would be no investment in upgrading our sewage pipes. So we'd see a rising level of pollution in our waterways, and we would see no benefit to customers from lowering the bills, because the damage would get worse and bills would have to go up even higher. None of it makes any sense.
But the Lib Dems are urging some sort of part nationalisation reform. Nigel Farage too. Tim Farron said this morning it was really stupid to privatise water in the first place. England and Wales, the only countries in the world where water and sewage completely nationalised. There's a reason. It's not working, is it?
The problem is that to unpick privatisation, to nationalise the water companies, you'd have to spend £100 billion of taxpayers' money handing it to the people who own the water companies that carried out the pollution.
Some part public-private thing, such as suggested by Reform or the Lib Dems.
What Nigel Farage has suggested, so if full nationalisation costs £100 billion, half nationalisation would cost £50 billion. Where's he going to get that £50 billion from? He's refused to tell us. Now, Nigel Farage has already made £80 billion of unfunded spending commitments. If you add this additional £50 billion, that comes to £130 billion. That's twice as much as Liz Truss committed to when she crashed the economy, sent everybody's mortgages and rents spiralling, and sent prices in the shops skyrocketing. So Nigel Farage is looking back at what Liz Truss did and wants to give us twice the amount of damage. I don't think the public wants to see that.
But you've got a problem, haven't you? Because you're talking about a decade of national renewal. All the changes you're making are going to take a long time. You are plunging in the polls. Nigel Farage, for all you say none of this is funded, has a way of connecting with people. Are you going to be able to deliver in time for the next election to make a difference, not just with water, but across a whole load of policy areas? Because otherwise you're in trouble.
Well, we'll see what happens at the next general election in 4 years' time. What I'm saying today is we've secured £104 billion of private sector investment that started to be spent in April of this year, so it's being spent now, and that will lead to reductions in sewage year on year until over 5 years we've cut sewage pollution in half. It also means that we'll be maintaining the sewage and water pipes in a better state of repair, so there's no longer the need for the huge bill rises that happened because the previous government didn't do what I'm now doing. So by the time we get to the next election, people will see more moderate bill increases and sewage in our waterways clearing up. They can take a decision based on us doing what we've said we will do.
Will you state your job on that?
Well, I'm going to be held to account for my job. I think politicians come out and we say we're going to do things. Frankly, my job should be on the line if I don't meet my promises. So I'm absolutely committed to making this work. That's why I'm taking such big, bold measures today to completely overhaul the system for the first time in a generation.
And just finally, on farming, the Welsh NFU boss has written to the Prime Minister talking about farmers tormented with continual worry. Labour pledged not to put up their inheritance tax. You came in and did the opposite. Elderly farmers in particular who can't change things to sign their assets away, absolutely beside themselves. Can you give them some hope that you might make some changes? I mean, this government's done lots of U-turns. Is there any hope of another one?
This government has set the biggest budget in history for sustainable farming.
That's no comfort to an 80-year-old farmer, though.
It's a comfort to farmers to know that there is now more money in the hands of more farmers under the sustainable farming schemes than at any point under the previous government. This government is supporting farmers with more investment.
But you broke a pledge to them.
And we're working with farmers to make their farm businesses more profitable, because unprofitable businesses can't attract investment and they can't attract young people to come in and work in the sector, and they don't have a future. I want to see farming have a bright future. We need to make it more profitable, and the government is investing more money into farming than at any point under the previous government.
But these changes
I know
are coming
farmers
in
support
April
that.
Next year. Is there any hope that you will think again
the
about
budget has
elderly
been
farmers in
set.
particular?
The budget has been set. The government had some very difficult choices to make because of the black hole in the public finances, but people will see that we've been able to offer now 4 million more appointments in the National Health Service, which has led to a dramatic cut in waiting lists, because we got that money in to invest in the National Health Service. Now, farmers are interested too in having a health service where they can get to see a doctor when they feel ill, so farmers will benefit from that. But as I say, they're also benefiting from the biggest budget for sustainable food production in our country's history.
Steve Reed, thank you very much
My
for talking
pleasure.
to us on
Thank
GB
you.
News. Thank you.